and welcome. I'm your host, Anisha Christensen, and this is You Know How This Ends, the podcast that will remind you every time you listen to it that the only thing that you have to do to have all your hopes and dreams and desires come to you is just to not give up. Just keep going, trust the process, enjoy the journey, keep learning, keep growing, keep expanding, and just learn to trust. And today's podcast, we're actually going to be diving even more deeply into this than we ever have before. I always know it's going to be something really important, whether it's a podcast or a training or a coaching session that I'm doing. I always know it's going to be really important when there's a lot of challenges and I have a hard time getting into it. And that's how this has been. I've been on the floor here. I'm coming to you live from my guest room slash office space. I love being on the floor here on my yoga mat, kind of stretching. And I just want it to be like comfy and cozy and right up in your face here if you're watching the YouTube video of this, because I want to talk about something that's really quite sensitive and so important. And I want to share with you that the whole reason I am where I am today is because I've learned to trust my body and trust God working through my body above everyone and everything else in my life. Yes, that means I trust God's voice above my husband's voice, above my church's voice, above what society says or doesn't say. I trust what God tells me to do more than anything else, above anyone else's voice. And this is actually something that came to me so strongly and has just pierced my soul ever since I heard him say it. I'm a member, an active, grateful, in love member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. I love the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. I am an active, full participating member in everything that the church does. And several years ago, we received a new prophet. The previous prophet and president of the church, Thomas S. Monson, passed away. And the new prophet and president of the church was Russell M. Nelson. And one of the very first things that he said in one of his opening talk, was, let God's voice be the loudest. Let God's voice be the loudest. And trusting that process and learning to trust that process has been the hardest, the scariest, and the most magical and miraculous and joy-filled thing I have ever done. Doesn't always make sense. And I know we've heard a million times, well, God's ways aren't our ways. And it's true, they're not, but they can become. God's ways can become our ways the more that we are learning, or the more that we learn to love God, to trust God, and to understand how God works for you, how God works in your body, how you hear God's voice, how you feel God's presence. And please remember, by God, I mean a Heavenly Father, a Heavenly Mother, and our Savior, Jesus Christ. I kind of refer to him as them because this is how I see God, as these three very distinct personages, and the Holy Ghost, of course, as well. And and I'm just gonna, my kind of MO is we're just gonna push record and start talking. So I hope this all makes sense. I'm really praying for the Spirit to be with me and guiding me in what I'm saying and what I'm sharing, and how you're receiving it, that you'll be able to receive the things that you need to receive and to hear, regardless or in spite of how I say or don't say something, and that you will let, in what I share, there might be things that are triggering to you. There might be things that feel like, oh, I don't know if that's the right thing or the wrong thing. Cool. Don't do it. Don't feel it. Don't like, but let go of what you think something should look like, and let it just be, and let your mind be open. One of the most beautiful ways of, I think, of looking at this is with technology advancements. Okay, so it's August 2025 at the time of this recording. So in, say, 50 years ago, 1975, if you had talked about a technology like this that would allow me to if I was someone else, or if I was talking to someone else on the other side of this Zoom recording, a technology that would allow me to see and do a video call with somebody else in any part of the world, and having it happen instantly and have it be something essentially free, the technology that we have today, people would have thought you were absolutely crazy. And now it's just something that we take for granted. But at the time, it was like, oh my gosh, that's so far-fetched. I love watching Back to the Future, the first Back to the Future, and seeing like how they were thinking that things, was it first one or the second? I can't remember. I get them all confused. I think it was the first one where he goes to the future and then he goes back and like all the different things, right? But anyway, maybe it was the second one. I don't know. But the one when he actually goes to the future, and I think that's the second one. And they like show all these things like the hoverboards and the spacecraft, like all these different things, and it was like, oh my gosh, that's crazy. And now we're like, yeah, like our children have hoverboards, like we see them, and it's like all of these things. I think of watching the Jetsons and the technology and stuff they had on there, and I was like, wow, that's crazy. Imagine that. And now I'm pretty sure we have like half the tech that the Jetsons had. We have it right now, right? Commonplace. But when we open up to, or when we're not ready to open up to, when something is new and different, it feels scary and it feels uncertain. We're like, I don't know. And there's so many things. Oh my gosh, I can think back to one in particular. um I used to love Carol Tuttle's Dressing Your Truth program, and I loved how she taught me how to dress in a way that matched my energy so that it was all one complete package, right? And I loved all the fashion stuff and I loved all the things. And then she kind of started talking more and more about the energy part of it, and I was like, oh man, Carol Tuttle, she's gone off the deep end. She's talking about energy now. Stick to fashion, stick to clothes, Carol. You're going a little crazy. And now I'm like, oh my gosh, that was so rudimentary energy basics information. Now I'm like way beyond all that. And so it's just funny to see how what first might feel scary or uncertain. And most of the time it's just because we don't understand it. And it makes me think of one of my favorite lines in Cool Runnings, where one of the beautiful Jamaican ladies says, "Oh, because they're watching on TV and watching everybody laugh at the bobsledders, right? The Jamaican bobsledders." And this kid's like, "Why are they laughing at us?" And she says, "Because we's different, and people's always afraid of what's different." And that's so true. When something is different, we don't understand it and it doesn't make sense. And our brain kind of goes, this could be scary. Alert, alert, alert. We don't understand this. There may be fear, there may be danger, but it's just because we don't understand it. And so it's learning to open. I always pray to have eyes to see and ears to hear. Eyes to see and ears to hear, and to be led and guided to the things that are right for you. And for me, and I've shared this, I shared this in one of my very, very first podcasts. So if you're just coming across this, you're going to want to go back and listen to the first few podcasts because I kind of share a bit more of my backstory. But for me, one of those first things that felt really scary and uncertain and dangerous was belly dancing. And I tell some people that, and they're like, it was so cute. I was talking with actually my Relief Society president the other day, and I said something about the belly dancing. She's like, "Oh, my mom used to belly dance, and she would dance for us, and we would clap and like, hey, mom." And I was like, "What?" Like, how come I was raised with this mentality of like, pretty much when I started belly dancing, I was like, I'm probably going to go to hell. Like, it's about to get very hot in here. Next stop, danger, danger. Like, that is literally how I felt. And I still feel, to be completely honest, I still feel a little bit of trepidation every once in a while, depending on the situation and who might be seeing or watching, whatever. Like, it's still a little bit scary for me sometimes. But I know without a shadow of a doubt in my mind, I was guided to belly dancing by God. God told me to start taking a belly dance class to learn how to belly dance myself. And then he told me to start teaching other women about it. And like, I know that with every fiber of my being because I have taken the time to understand and to feel and to trust, even when I don't know for sure, to be willing to just go on the journey. I was channeling the other day. I have my group of ladies I call my sisterhood, and I was channeling Eve, Adam and Eve the other day. And I was chatting with her about some different questions and things that I had. And I heard her so clearly. She was like, the thing that drives me crazy about you humans is that you're so stuck on the one right thing. Like, I have to find the one right way to do this. And she's like, when I chose to partake of the fruit and leave the Garden of Eden, I had no proof. I had no evidence that it was the one right thing. But she said it just felt right. And I was willing to trust that and I was willing to move forward with that and figure it out as I went. And look, it's worked out pretty good. And that's how I feel about so many things in my life is I don't know. I don't know. I don't have 100% proof or evidence that it's going to work, but I know it just feels right. I just have to do this thing. And if you're listening, I guarantee you've had this experience too. You have felt something that felt scary. I call it those butt clenching moments. You have felt a call to do something or be something or say something or go somewhere that has felt scary and uncertain, and you have no idea how it's going to work out. You have no proof or evidence that it will work out other than that you just believe that it will. And you feel compelled to do the thing, and it's scarier. This is the part where I feel like we finally make that decision, is when it becomes harder to stay in the uncomfortableness of where you are than the uncomfortableness of the unknown. That is the point where you were willing to make change. So I mean, I guarantee everybody's done this at one point or another in their life to one extent or another. But I'd love to invite you to reflect back on, where have I done this already? Where have I taken that scary next step? And where has it worked out so beautifully and so amazing? And where have I taken that scary next step and it doesn't seem like it worked out so well? Because that's happened too, right? We're like, I thought this thing would happen and then it didn't. Maybe you spent some money on a coach or a course or doing something. You're like, oh yeah, this is going to be that one thing that's going to propel me to the next step and it's going to do all the things. And then it doesn't. And you still feel kind of like you're, exactly where you were before. And the thing that I always love to remind myself and remind my clients is, yeah, but what did you learn? What did you learn in the process? Because our human brains are all about results. What is the result I'm going to get? But the way that God and the universe works is about the experience. What are you experiencing? What are you learning in the process? Who are the people you're connecting with? What is the knowledge that you're gaining? What are the experiences, the learning that you're having with your body? All these things are such an important piece, way more important than the actual result. And as far as the result, remember that everything is created spiritually and physically. So oftentimes, the physical evidence, the physical result just hasn't come yet because of, we talked about the gestation period a few weeks ago, and the time that it takes, that whole, respect the time that it takes to build something solid. Sometimes it just takes longer than we think. But what did you learn in the process? Who are you becoming? What are the relationships you're cultivating? What are the experiences you're having? That's what really matters. That is what we're here for. We're here to experience and be in all of it. And for me, the way that whole reason that I am where I am today, working with amazing people, connecting with amazing colleagues and clients and people, and doing the whole real estate thing and having the amazing relationship with my husband and with my children, the whole reason I am here today, I can go back to that desire, or excuse me, that impression to learn belly dance, because that connected me with my body. Now, I'm not saying that you have to go and learn to belly dance. I would recommend it. It's amazing, whether you're a man or a woman, that connection, that creation energy, that connection with your sacral is something so, so powerful. That is summoning literally like God's creation energy, the force, the energy that created this entire universe and beyond. So whether that's belly dancing or whether it's any other way that you do it, you have to do something to connect with your body. And for me, it was taking that scary next step into belly dancing that allowed me to begin connecting with my body and experience God working through me, through my body, because God created our bodies. And 9 times out of 10, He's going to speak to us through our bodies. And because I trusted, and man, we're going to have to talk about, there's a lot of other things. One of the pivotal pieces before that was even just taking my first coaching program. It was $50 a month, and I was terrified. I was so scared of spending that money every month. And ever since then, that was back in 2019. And it was that pivotal piece that started moving me forward in learning to trust, being willing to do scary things that seemed hard or uncertain or didn't know how it was going to turn out, right? Being willing to move forward on those things without knowing how it was all going to work out, but knowing that it would. And then, one thing led to another and began belly dancing and receiving that healing that I needed. and doing it because in a way to make sense to my physical brain, doing it because I thought it was going to be for healing for my back. And boy, it was, and a million other ways of healing as well. But it's been those incremental steps in learning to trust, beginning with a relatively small thing of being willing to spend $50 a month on a coaching course and a coaching practice, and then moving incrementally up into next steps and the right people. And it's always about the people. It's always about the people, and it's always about the money, at least for me and for everybody that I've ever worked with. It's about the money that will allow you to connect with the people. And because of the money that I have spent and figured out how to find it, we took out loans against my husband's 401k. We cashed out retirement accounts. We got a HELOC on our house. We've done all these things in faith, in trust, and with like a plan in place most of the time. Honestly, not all the time, but most of the time, we have done these things because money is the energetic exchange that our community has decided that we're going to be using. There has to always be an energetic exchange, and we've decided that we're going to use money as that energetic exchange. And so, for everybody on this planet, unless you live in a society where you're still doing the trade barter system, right? We decided that we're going to use money as that energetic exchange. So when you take a class, when you take a course, when you purchase property, as in real estate, anything that you do, we use money to do that. And so you have to figure out how to find the money. And that's actually something that we help people with in our real estate business. We teach you how to find the money to fund the things that you want to do, whether that's buying the real estate education in the first place, whether that's getting into a deal, into a property, into a flip, or into a rental property, whether that's taking a coaching course. I've had multiple five-figure, I guess, clients who have paid me multiple five figures to coach them and train them in this process of building their businesses. I'm going to have some of them on as guests sometime soon. But for most people, it's being willing to pay that money that will allow you to associate with the people and be in the rooms with the people who can help you get to that next level. Isn't that crazy to think about? Money is the key to be able to help you to be with the people and learn the things, the knowledge, the experience, education that will allow you to progress into that next level. That's just the way that our society has decided that this works. And so it's figuring out that money piece that is so valuable and being willing to receive the money when it comes and use it in the way that will actually help you to do this. I'm working with a client right now who's trying to figure out the money piece. And let me tell you, and this might drive you crazy if you haven't seen this yet in your life, money is the easiest piece to figure out. Whether it's with real estate, whether it's with trying to pay for something or do something, money is the easiest piece to figure out if you know how money works. Let that sink in. Money is the easiest piece to figure out if you know how money works. And if you haven't seen that yet, like me before, when I would hear that, I was like, that's not true. This is crazy. We're needing the money for this. We're needing the money for that. And it's not there. But even just that thought or that feeling of like, oh no, it's not true. We don't have it. What is that doing? That is giving you more lack, more scarcity. That is telling the universe we don't have it. And so the universe is like, all right, they don't have it. Okay, I guess they don't have it. But if instead you can just even shift your mindset to be like, this, excuse me, this will be interesting to see how this works out. Oh, this will be interesting to see how this piece comes together. I can't wait to see how this happens. I can't wait to see how I have the money for this coaching package or this, fix on the car or this real estate deal or this education or this, whatever it is, groceries for this month. I can't wait to see how this works out. Now that puts you in a state of wonder, of expansion, and it opens up your possibilities to all the ways that it could work out. And the other piece that is so important and bring along with this, man, we're talking about so many different things today. Stay with me. Stay with me. I told you, push record and start talking. We're going to see where God takes us. The other piece that is so important to remember is that God and the universe is not subject to our physical brain's timeline. And sometimes Your physical brain will think that you need a certain amount by a certain time. And maybe you even have proof. Maybe you have a credit card statement. Maybe you have a mortgage payment. Maybe you have, hungry children that want to go and eat out, whatever it is. If you can let go of thinking that it needs to happen by a certain time and just be like, well, we'll see what happens. We'll see how it works out. And trust that you are going to be okay. Something will work out if you will get into that place of receiving. And I know this is one thing to say and a completely different thing to do. And I'm not asking you or inviting you into a spiritual bypass. A spiritual bypass is when you're like, well, if it's meant to be, it'll just happen. And you just like don't even do anything about it, right? Like, no, that is not how this works. You get into that place of trust. You say, I wonder how this is going to go work out. And you go and you do something amazing that feels so, so good. You go and spend time in nature. You go and make love to your partner. You go and you dance. You go and you eat something delicious. You go and you take a nap, for crying out loud, right? Half the time we just need some sleep. You go and do something that puts you into this beautiful high vibration and you just enjoy it. And then when you're in that beautiful space, you think and say something like, okay, how could this work out? How could we figure this out? What are all the different possibilities? And depending on really like what level of education you have, you'll have a whole bunch of different opportunities and solutions that will present themselves to you if you're in that place of wonder, that place of receiving, that place of allowing, that place of being open to the possibilities and being in alignment with your feminine energy is going to be pivotal. And this is one of the reasons why I feel so strongly to teach the faith, love, and sex class that's happening. I think at the time of this, by the time this recording comes out, it'll just be happening next week. It's on September 3rd. This is exactly what we're going to be talking about is how to get into that space where you're so filled with faith and trust of who you are and that promise of seek you shall find, ask and you'll receive, knock and it'll be open unto you, that you're like, cool, well, however this needs to happen. Sometimes that might mean making a late payment and having a $25 late payment or asking for a deferral on a deferment on your payment. Sometimes it means like I've known people where they've had to go through bankruptcy. That was the solution. And even though that seemed like the worst possible thing that could happen, and never in a million years would you want to do that, it was actually the perfect right thing for them to experience. And guess what? They're doing super well financially now and they're out on the other side and it's hard. But they learn. I love the idea that we never lose. We either win or we learn. That is the truth. That is the truth. So faith, being in that space of faith, of trust, love, being in so much love. Love is one of the highest vibrating emotions. And if you can come from a place of love, then anything you do, everyone you come in contact with, I mean, just magic and miracles open up for you. Who was I talking to just the other day where she was having she was in a coffee shop having a drink with a friend and lo and behold, someone, a mutual friend, walked in, and he was the exact person that was looking and waiting for an opportunity with real estate investing and came to one of the classes and is going to be joining the program and learning how to invest in real estate because she was enjoying having coffee or having a drink with a friend and being in that beautiful space of receiving and joy and love. And lo and behold, they came. Now she might have been like, oh, I have work to do. I can't, take time to go hang out with friends, but instead she prioritized making that connection. People. Everything you want is going to come through people. It comes through people. And I didn't understand this before. And I didn't like it because I didn't want to have to depend on people. But that's one of the things about learning to work in God's ways is that God works through people. God works through people. So if you feel like you have issues around connecting with people, associating with people, trusting people, loving people, there's some work to be done there to be able to be in more love. And again, this has been something that's been really a huge part of my journey, just even over the last year. I just told my husband a couple months ago, I feel like I love people more now than I used to. And he kind of looked at me like, well, that's good. But for some of us that are very focused, very driven, we're like, I don't have time for people. I have all the things I want to get done. I don't have time for the people. But trust me, people bring the money. People bring the opportunities. People bring the resources. You need to connect with people. You need to know people, and people need to know you. So faith, love, and sex. Napoleon Hill told us that faith, love, and sex are the three most powerful. I would add gratitude in there somewhere. If we could add a fourth, I personally would add gratitude. But he didn't bring in gratitude in this particular point. He talks about it in other places, but in this particular section, he talks about how faith, love, and sex are the most powerful of the emotions that we can feel on this planet. So we talked about faith, trusting, being willing to take those steps even when it doesn't make sense. Love, being filled with love, loving people. And when you have more love, then you have more trust and you have more faith. So they all work together. And then sex. And why sex? And it's not even actually like the physical act of sex, because I have several people that are like, well, I'm not sexually active right now. I prefer to be sexual inside the bounds of marriage and I'm not married. So how does that work for me? But guess what? It's not necessarily about the actual physical act of sex that makes it easier to do this and to bring in this energy, but it's being in that creation energy, be in that space of joy, of bliss, of high arousal. And when I say arousal, I love the term from Abraham Hicks: tuned in, tapped in, turned on. Tuned in, tapped in, turned on. Because you're tuned into your body, into how you're feeling. You're tapped into the energy of the universe and you're turned on. Now, this doesn't mean that you're like horny and ready to go out and have sex, right? Necessarily, but it means that your senses are aroused, are awakened, and you're able to feel, you're able to receive a heightened sensuality. Sensual means being aware of your senses, right? So that means physically, but being able to see more clearly and see colors more vividly and being able to see things that are like visions and that clairvoyance. That's what I'm looking for. Clairvoyance, right? Being able to see that third eye, being able to see with your clairaudience is the word I'm looking for, with your hearing, being able to hear God's voice, being able to hear and be aware of your thoughts. That's been one of the biggest, craziest pieces, is recognizing like how many different thoughts I have floating around through my head and all the different voices. And it's like, holy moly. Oh my goodness. Like feeling your senses in the skin when something soft brushes against your skin, feeling the sun on your face, feeling the water. It's been summer at the time of this recording. We've had a beautiful, magical summer, and going swimming and lakes and rivers and playing in the streams and hiking and all the things. I went skinny dipping yesterday by myself at the river. I've never done that before. But I was just, it felt so good. And I just wanted to be in my body, in the water, in the sand, and just feel it. Like you will become obsessed with experiencing life through your body. And that's what you came to Earth for, was to experience life, experience your body. And yet so many of us, we don't love our bodies and we don't listen to our bodies. And we doom scroll instead of sleep, and we junk instead of healthy food, and we sit on chairs at desks instead of walking and being outside, and we stare at a screen instead of making connections with our family and loved ones. Our bodies are missing out on the whole reason that they came to Earth. Our bodies are missing it, and they're mourning and they're sad, and we want to experience this. And sexual connection is one of the most powerful, amazing things that we can experience with our bodies. And I realize this, and we're going to talk about this more deeply in the class. I want to share it all with you, but I also don't just want to like tell it all, because I want you to come to the class where we can talk about this more one on one. But I'm probably going to be sharing more than I should here, giving away the secrets of the universe for free, right? I was laying there. So, we were doing this experiment. My husband and I have like, okay, let's put this experiment to test. And we're going to make a goal of making love every night for the next about 2.5 weeks. And one of the nights, it was so funny. Uh, so I personally have had to learn to be willing to receive in all areas of life, and especially sexually. And when I first began this experiment, right there connected with learning how to belly dance and awakening that sensuality and that connection and that creation, learning to be pleasured by my husband was one of the hardest things I've ever done in my life. I was very much like get in, get out, get on with it type of a girl. And I would literally like set I wouldn't set a timer, but I'd like glance at the clock outside the corner of my eye and be like, okay, it's 9:05. I'm gonna do 10 minutes. Or for me, a lot of times it was just like because we have music playing, which is one of the most amazing resources. If you don't have like a lovemaking playlist or just even a love songs playlist or something for your lovemaking, that's a game changer. You're gonna want to use the power of music to help you to be in the mood. But I'd like, okay, like it's been 3 songs. I've been letting him pleasure me for 3 songs. It's probably time to move along now, right? And one of the nights I was like, okay, I'm not going to initiate like moving from foreplay into like more, actual sexual. And I was like, I'm not going to initiate that. I'm going to let him pleasure me as long as he wants to. I'm not even going to touch him. I'm just going to let him pleasure me as long as he wants to and see what happens, see how long it would go. And we laid there and song after song after song after song. And he just pleasured me. And finally, I glanced at the clock and it had been an hour. And I was like, okay, this has been long enough. It was so hard for me to lay there and receive pleasure. Like, how crazy is that? I have a husband who wants to pleasure me nonstop. And my brain, not my body was loving it, but my brain was like, this has been too long. This is too much pleasure. Now, ladies and gentlemen, how does that relate in life? If the way we do one thing is the way that we do everything, how does that relate in life? Well, I'll tell you this. If you are not willing to receive, if it is hard for you to receive through sex, through pleasure, any kind of like real, true, intense pleasure, you are limiting your capacity to receive financially and in every other area of your life. And it was so funny because the next day, I was out walking our dog in the evening. I love summer evenings and I love to go out for walks and walk our dog on summer evenings. And I knew that like I'd come back and we'd like get to bed and we'd be having sex that night. And I was walking and I was like, okay, that's fine. I'm fine with keep doing this experiment, but I'm gonna tell Dave that it can't last that long. And I want to have like a timer to know how long it's gonna last. I want to know how long I have to be in pleasure for. I want to know when it's going to be done. And I realized, oh my goodness. I like was saying all these things out loud and I could like just kind of almost like I could hear myself through someone else's eyes. And I was like, oh my goodness. It's the same way I do life. I want to know at the time I was kind of feeling a slump in energy and business and things. And I was like, I want to know how long this slump is going to last. I want to know how long it's going to be until like the climax comes, right? Because I know where I'm headed. I know what the future looks like. And sometimes I'm like, I get so frustrated that I'm not there yet. And I was like, I want to know how long it's going to take, when it's going to come. That's why I want a timer. And I don't want, oh, and that was the other thing. And I don't want to feel pressured to perform. I don't want to feel pressured to perform. And I was like, oh my goodness. Dave never pressures me to perform. Never. I've never felt that from him. I have felt it from myself and I perceive it coming from him at times, but it actually comes through me. I'm pressuring myself. I'm pressuring myself to perform, to get things done, to meet challenges, to meet obligations, to do all these things. There's no one else pressuring me. God for sure is not pressuring me. It's the pressures I put on myself and then feeling frustrated that it takes longer than I think it should and wanting to know how long is it going to take? When is this going to be done? When are all the things going to happen? Are you seeing that? Are you seeing that connection? How many of you feel that way? How many of you feel that way in sex? How many of you feel that way in other areas of your life where it's like, oh, I just want to know how much longer, how much longer. I've talked about this before, right? It kind of feels like you're holding a plank, sometimes like doing a plank war. And you don't know how much longer you have to go until it's done. Oh, we have to learn to let go. We have to learn to trust. We have to learn to receive joy and pleasure all along the way, every step of the way. This is the way that you quantum leap. This is the way that you experience all the desires that you have in life. This is the way that you know how it ends. And you can live every day with that faith and that joy and that love and that trust and those feelings of joy and bliss and ecstasy and like higher, more expansive joy than you've ever thought possible. This is how you do it. This is how you do it. This is what we're going to be teaching at the class on September 3rd. 7 to 9 p.m. A replay will be available. It's $111, slightly more than a tank of gas. I recommend that you beg, steal, or borrow to make this happen. If you are in a place where financially that is a challenge for you, beg, steal, or borrow. Don't steal. Maybe steal from another fund, maybe steal from your 401k, maybe steal from, find a way to make this happen. Find a way to be at that class. This will change your life. We're going to be sharing deeper into this than I have gone tonight and giving you tools and resources and opportunities to be able to make these changes in your life. If you are married, I invite you to invite your spouse to join you if they are at all open to this. It's the same price, whether it's one person or both of you. So come. Um, Dave is going to be there with me sharing about the masculine side of this, the masculine perspective of this. He is an amazing giver. He is amazing. He receives, and I thought that all men were like this, and a lot of them are, but it really is an awareness of how strong they are in their masculine energy as to how willing they are to pleasure their women. So this is going to be super powerful and helpful for both men and women and their relationship. I'm trying to think if there's anything else. Oh, the other piece is realizing this is literally what has gotten me to where I am today. This is what has gotten me to, at the time of this recording, closing on our second real estate property, a fix and flip, where we're going to be making between 30 and 60 grand in 3 to 6 months. Absolutely amazing. The whole reason I'm here doing this real estate investing that I'm doing is because I was willing to trust, because I was willing to take those scary next steps into the darkness, because I was willing to recognize that I was receiving this prompting and let God's voice be louder than my voice and anyone else's voice. Oh, and remind me, I need to come back. Someone text me. I put it down, but remind me that I need to come back and share the story when I said sometimes letting God's voice even be louder than your church. We, years ago in 2020, we bought a brand new expedition. And I felt like I was, because God told us to, like clearly, like there was no mistaking it. This was what God intended for us. And I was scared to death because I was like, no, our church, our leaders teach us don't go into debt. Don't go into debt like maybe go into debt for just like a reliable basic vehicle, but nothing extreme, like definitely not a brand new $70,000 vehicle, right? But it was, I knew that God was telling me to do it. I knew it. And that we would figure out the how. It would all be worked out. So I'll do a whole episode about that story because that's a really fun story as well. But that's what I mean. But even sometimes things that go against like what your church says necessarily. Uh, but again, like I'm not like trying to like, I'm a very happy active member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. I'm not going against anything they teach and preach, but it's a matter of trusting and feeling what God has for you. And that feminine side of things, that's unseen. That's unknown. That's wild. That's untamed. That is trusting and receiving when you don't have proof. If you had proof, if you had evidence, everybody would do it, right? But God speaks to you gently and quietly and through these feelings and emotions. And he whispers, come. And they whisper, trust. So amazing. I'm so excited to teach this class and I can't wait. I can't wait to see you there. We'll have the link for the class in the comments below here. Please don't, I've already had several of you reach out and say like, I have this concern or I have this question or what about this? Please reach out to me if you have any questions or concerns. I am here to help and answer anything that you feel like is blocking you from doing this. Let's figure that out. Let's help you to come and learn and receive. It's going to be magical. So on that note, thank you. Thank you for being here. Thank you for loving. Thank you for trusting in the ways that you already have and recognize you're doing it better than you thought. You're doing better than you think. You are on the right track. If you are here listening to this, you're being led and guided to it for a reason, and you are on the right track. Trust it. Allow it. Receive it. Love you. Talk to you soon. Bye.